Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is my Friday Reads video for October 18th, 2019. As you can see, I have company this video. This is Missy, and I figure that's even more incentive to make a short video for once, so hopefully she'll stay the entire time. Though at the moment, she doesn't seem to be wanting to go anywhere. Just thought I'd talk about a few books today, starting with this one, which I finished earlier this week. This is Searching for Sylvie Lee by Kwok. It's an ARC of a book that actually came out in June. And, well, I liked it. I thought it was okay. This is the story of a Chinese-American family, but really we're focusing pretty specifically on two characters, two sisters, Sylvie and Amy. And as the title suggests, Sylvie is missing. She has family in the Netherlands who she actually grew up with for a while, and she went to visit them as her grandmother was dying, and then she sort of disappeared. And her sister Amy goes to basically follow the case. And within the course of the story, we go into flashbacks and realize that Sylvie's seemingly perfect life isn't so perfect after all, and there's a lot of skeletons in the closet. This is one of those novels that actually makes me a little worried about my own writing, because I feel like this character had too much going on, too much sort of being thrown into the mix of what was wrong. And at the end, as it was getting resolved what happened to her and why, it just felt like, I don't know, maybe it was a focus thing, like, you know, what should I be most focused on? Although I also respect the idea that a person's life is multifaceted. There could be plenty wrong with it. I don't know, I think maybe the characters didn't exactly leap off the page. Maybe one or two of the antagonists was a little too one-dimensional for me. And I'm not sure we were served entirely by the structure going back and forth between Sylvie and Amy. And it also could be my bias a bit about the genre stuff and focusing too much on mystery and not enough on character development. That being said, I think I still did like the sisters a lot. I liked the idea of Sylvie trying for a perfect life and seeing some of the emptiness of it. I liked Amy's awkwardness and feeling like she was second best, but I feel like as a character she wasn't fleshed out enough, very much beyond the needs of the plot. I did like going to the Netherlands, which I believe is where Kwok lives as well. You know, it gives me a nice new place that I don't know much about, and it was particularly interesting to see it from the lens of a minority figure, of what it would be like for people who are a minority race. I think it had a lot of potential, and I enjoyed it enough to keep going, but I think ultimately it fell a little flat. Next, well, I'm in the middle, or actually moving slower than I'd like, through The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. Not even sure why I'm moving so slowly through this. I'm just tired after work. Whine, whine. I actually started reading this on the day that I heard it was co-winner of the Booker Prize. Don't Shoot the Messenger. I haven't read any of the other books on that list, actually, and I have to say I'm enjoying this one, although I'm not enjoying it in the way of saying this is excellent literature. I'm enjoying it kind of like it's fan fiction, which is weird, isn't it? Because, you know, this is Atwood's world. She can, you know, has more right than anyone to write in it. But I think this goes to the crux of some of the complaints about the novel, in that it is heavily reliant on the TV show. We're following three characters who are giving a sort of testimony, it seems, sometime after the events that they're discussing. We're following Aunt Lydia, who was a character in The Handmaid's Tale and in the show, although her backstory is a bit different so far in the book than this book. And then we're following two young women who, if you've watched the show, you'll know who they are. And at this point, they're basically talking about their childhoods. One is growing up in Gilead as a privileged class. She's the daughter of a commander. The other one is growing up in Canada as a fugitive, although she just figured out her identity. I mean, I think I enjoy the story, the drama of it, and even the characters to a degree. The world building kind of falls apart. It feels like Aunt Lydia is pretty deeply involved in a lot of major military action. I mean, maybe I should give Atwood a break. because she's involved in something specifically with the idea of baby Nicole, who was abducted on her watch, as it were. But it still feels like the world is too shallowly drawn. It doesn't feel exactly like there's a country behind Gilead. It almost feels like this is a small stage play for all of the characters involved. And I do, I guess, grate against the idea that because of that, things are questioned. All of the tenets of Gilead are questioned about their veracity, and I want to take them seriously, especially all of the ideas of misogyny that are prevalent in this series, but Gilead really doesn't stand up to form. But still, I sort of, if I just read it as fan fiction where I enjoy the characters and the drama, then I can accept a lot of the social issues like on a case-by-case basis. Though again, in terms of antagonists, I think Atwood does a good job of making all of the women three-dimensional, but so far we don't really have any insight into the men. And although I can respect that they're not going to be main characters, it does right now feel like everybody's a paper villain. And again, I'm grating against it because, there is criticism to be had against dictatorships that are reliant upon armies of yes men. But when you see some people as human and some people as cutouts, it just sort of tests the believability. I don't know, maybe I'll have to give fuller thoughts when I actually finish this, tout this book out again next week, and give BookTube's next big review of the Testaments, because we don't have enough. In fact, I haven't watched any because I didn't really want to be biased when I went into this. I don't usually read things with quite this much hype, or at least quite this early on the hype train. But I think my consensus right now is I really am enjoying this, while respecting that it's not great literature. And finally, this is what's coming down the pike for me, Gateway to the Moon by Mary Morris. Back in the beginning of the year, I highlighted several Jewish novels and some nonfiction published in 2018 that I wanted to read this year, and I'm getting back on track with that project, so I hope. I think I may have actually seen this book first as an ARC on Steve Donahue's channel, and I've been particularly interested in it because it's about Conversos, which is a Jewish community that traces its ancestry usually to the Spanish Inquisition and to people who were forcibly converted or decided, for their safety to hide their Jewish beliefs. And now their descendants don't have any real knowledge of Judaism for the most part, or some part. Things are changing now, but they have all of these practices that they're realizing align with Jewish practices. And there's a large community in the southwest of America of Conversos, and I believe that's where this novel takes place. I'll read from the flap. In 1492, two history-altering events occurred. The Jewish and Muslim populations of Spain were expelled, and Columbus set sail for America. Many Spanish Jews choose not to flee and instead became Christian in name only, maintaining their true religious identity and traditions in secret. Among them is Luis de Torres, who accompanies Columbus as an interpreter. His journey is only the beginning of a long migration. Over the centuries, de Torres' descendants travel from Spain and Portugal to the hills of New Mexico, settling there long before the Pilgrims arrive in New England. 500 years later, in these same hills, Miguel Torres, the young amateur astronomer, finds himself trying to understand the mystery that surrounds him and the town where he was raised. Entrada de la Luna is a place that ambitious children try to leave. Poor health, broken marriages, and poverty are the norm. Good luck is unusual. When Miguel sees a flyer for a babysitting job in Santa Fe, he jumps at the opportunity and begins to work in a Jewish family. Rachel Rothstein is not the sort of parent Miguel expected. A frustrated artist, Rachel moved her family from New York in search of a fresh start, but so far New Mexico has not solved the problem she brought with her. Miguel loves the work, and yet he's surprised to find that many of the Rothstein family's customs are similar to the ones he grew up with and never understood. Interwoven throughout the present-day narrative are the powerful stories of the ancestors of Entrada's residents, highlighting the torture, pursuit, and resistance of the Jewish people. A beautiful novel of a shared history that weaves the legacy of the Jews in the New World to the larger American story. Gateway to the Moon is a moving and memorable portrait of a family and its journey through the centuries. So yeah, I'm hopeful, maybe a little bit wary about these books that travel so much between time periods because, that's a lot of ground to cover. But I'm having a lot of luck lately with historical fiction, and this is particularly the history I like, aka History of the Jews, so I'm all on board. So that about covers it for me now. It has gotten cold within the last couple of days in the DC area. I mean, like a precipitous drop. Here I am wearing my blanket as a cover. I think I need to acclimate and change my wardrobe for the changing season. This is the type of year when I start to whine, is it May yet? Which might become an annoying refrain for the next several months. Luckily, I have some great stuff on the horizon. We all have a bunch of holidays coming up. There's also NaNoWriMo next month, National Novel Writing Month, which I really should be prepping for. I'm shaming myself online, but I have a weekend coming up, and I think I'm going to go ahead and try to schedule some things that kind of works for me. Usually, if I schedule events on weekend days, I can get more done. Weekdays are great for working and then coming home and collapsing with my cat on the bed. Doesn't she look so inviting? She's on my pillow. So I hope you all have great weekends coming up as well, whether in reading or writing or anything else. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.